My name is Jessica. I'm here with a Beta Virtual Assistant. We like to talk about the crypto markets, the investing markets, and crypto taxes and all that sort of stuff. Spent the week spending a lot of time on a client that really messed up their accounts. They had retirement accounts and uh, regular accounts, and they kind of did not keep them separate like they're supposed to. So I've been cleaning up that mess and advising them and trying to educate them on some of the rules that are involved when you do sign up for a retirement account. Crypto, it's super easy, as it turns out, to just kind of not realize you're breaking the rules, but you don't break the rules. So there's been that. And then we have another couple of clients who we're trying to wrap up, and they have complicated things. They go and they buy new coins, and they don't always tell us, and then the data doesn't always import into their crypto tax software. And then we come along at the end of the year and we try to reconcile it, and there's always a lot of back and forth, and there's more back and forth than you think there should be, because it's like, when you go, I don't know, maybe other people aren't like this, but when I go to my accountant, I go and I say, this is all my information. And I have my income, and I have my investing income, I have my expenses, I have my, do I qualify for medical deductions, or if I qualify for charitable deductions or whatever. I have that all put together. In fact, he loves me actually, because I come in with a giant binder and I say, here's all my information, and we flip through the binder, make sure he doesn't have any questions, and then he goes away. I go away. He puts all the data into the computer, spits out the report, sends it to me. I write him back and say, you missed this and this and this and this. And then he says, cool, this is why this is different. This is why this is different. And we're going to ignore that. And I say, okay. And then we're done. And it's really relatively quick and painless process, all things considered, because I'm really organized, because I have all my stuff put together in one place. And most of our clients are not that organized. So most of our clients say, we're ready for you to reconcile. And we say, cool. Have you checked and made sure that your data is importing from your exchange? So that's step one. Step two, have you added all of your wallet addresses? And did you forget any wallets? And they're like, oh, yeah. I totally added my wallet addresses. And then we start reconciling, and we start looking at the missing transactions report. The missing transactions report is terrific because it tells us when things aren't making sense. It labels everything that comes into the account as either a deposit or withdrawal when it doesn't know what it is. So if it's a trade, it automatically gets assigned as a trade. It doesn't end up on the missing transactions report. And if it's staking income and the blockchain knows that, it'll label that. But if it doesn't know it's staking income, then we have to go to the client and ask. And so I went to the client and I said, okay, well, now, first of all, some of it we can figure out because we have tools and we know how to use them. So a lot of times, especially if it's blockchain stuff, we can go do a little blockchain research and we can say, we see that you also have a wallet on Pulse Chain, and you haven't added the Pulse Chain data to coin tracking, so it hasn't imported this stuff. So then we add the Pulse Chain address, and a minute later, it's imported all the data, and then we just have to check and make sure that the data makes sense, and we're on our way. But sometimes we can't tell what's going on, or we have we attract clients who are experimental and they like trying new chains that don't have automatic imports, and they don't always tell us about the new chains. And then we go to get their information and we say, you sent $500 out on this particular day. And they say, oh yeah, I sent it to XYZ chain. And you're like, cool, we need information from that. Like an address would help, or a printout, or a website, something, so that we can get the data. And a lot of times that works, but it's just not as organized as when I go to my tax preparer and I say, here's all my stuff. So if you want to make your life so much easier and your accountant's life so much easier, and the fact of the matter is, I can't even imagine people who try to take this to their regular accountant and say, here's my crypto stuff, I don't know what to do with it. So that is the part we help We help organize everything so that you do have a printout of a report at the end that you can take to your accountant and say, okay, here's my trades and here's the income I earned. And it's very simple and easy. But in the meantime, if you don't know what you did, or if you don't tell the computer software what you did, and if you don't tell the person who's reconciling the computer software what you did, then we end up with a problem. And so I've been very much deep in the weeds trying to untangle several clients this week uh, with that, and discovering little discrepancies with the software. And of course, the software broke for me yesterday on in my favorite browser that I like to use to work in the app. It no longer functions, so that's really great. But I am switching to a different browser, and sometimes I wonder why I have so many browsers open, and then I say, oh yeah, because of that, that, and that. In any case, um, so I don't know if anyone has any questions about crypto taxes or how to make their taxes easier at the end of the year. And we always tell people at our workshops and when we do our blockchain challenge, and one of the big things that you want to do when you have a blockchain wallet is when you do something new, write it down. So if you are going to buy a coin that hasn't released yet, this is especially important because when it hasn't released yet, there's no blockchain record. There's a record of you sending money somewhere. But if you don't remember where you sent that money, number one, will you remember to go claim your tokens when it's time? Number two, will you remember when it's time to put it into your tax software and actually put in the data? So if you're doing something new, like buying a coin that hasn't been released yet, if you're starting a new project, if you're opening a new wallet, it can be very, very simple. It can just be, the amount, the date, and a little note that says started pulse chain wallet, or sent to LX1 protocol, or um, decided to try the guru in WhatsApp who added me to their group, which is, by the way, 99% of the time a scam. But, write it down and be like, oh yeah, I sent money to this. Because then at the end of the year, it's so much easier. You already have the data. And you don't necessarily need to do all of the trades, especially if they're showing up in the blockchain. So if you know how to read the blockchain, you can go into the blockchain and you can say, I traded Pepe for USDC. It's right there. I don't need to write that down because it's on the blockchain and it should import. And if it doesn't import, we have ways to notice that it didn't import and then go check on it and say, why didn't you import, and fix it. But when we don't know what you did, it's really hard to recreate that without coming to you and saying, hey, do you remember what happened when you sent the $500 out of your account last January? January 2024, which is like, how many months is that? Like 16 months ago? Like, you totally remember what you were doing in January 2024, right? Because I totally remember everything that I was doing in January 2024. Yeah. So this is why we always say write it down so that you have something to help you, remind you. So many clients we've had. We had one person, she disappeared for like 2 months because she couldn't remember where the last transaction went. And it turns out she had been doing something with her son, and her son had said, let's invest in this. And she said, okay. So he went boom, 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 sent the tokens over there, and then they came back. And I actually looked at these tokens and I said, it's weird that you have these BNB tokens leaving here and then they're greatly increased coming back over here. Are these related? Oh, I don't know. So she didn't write it down. And this is like a perfect example of like, you want to write it down. Okay, I've said that. What else is going on? Oh my goodness, the markets have been quite exciting. If you're not following along, I think there were records set last week with tariffs being announced and then the markets falling, and the markets did fall 20%, which is pretty good fall. And then yesterday, Trump tweeted something else. I was actually delivering my little form to my accountant saying, yes, I file my taxes. I was in the car. I got in the car from dropping off the form, and and Trump had tweeted something and the market was going straight up. So it had the biggest gain in history. I saw a chart that the S&P had the eighth biggest gain in history yesterday, and the NASDAQ had the second biggest gain in one day in history. So that's kind of interesting. And then And in the meantime, I think that some records were set last week with the fall in the market. So as usual, the market is just playing with you. If you haven't figured out how to time the market, and I've been chatting with a friend who in Discord, he is developing his own trading system, kind of based on a couple of things that we've actually done together. And we're having a conversation about it. And he's very excited about fundamental analysis. And fundamental analysis is when you go into a stock and you say, okay, its earnings are this, and its debt ratio is this, and its price to earnings ratio, and it's like you just look at everything, how much yield it's producing and how much cash it has and all this sort of thing, and you kind of like, he has designed this beautiful spreadsheet. He loves spreadsheets. And he's designed this beautiful spreadsheet that he says he can fill out in just a few minutes. And it's got all the details of these companies. And then he can compare them like in different columns and say, okay, which one is best to invest in? And then he goes and he looks at the technical analysis, which is like looking at the chart and seeing where there's lines of support and resistance, which means, you know, the stock market or crypto chart, it bounces around, and but usually there's like places where it kind of bounces off of. So there will be a floor. So the price will come along and it'll hit that floor and then it'll bounce back up, or there might be a ceiling and it'll bounce against that and bounce back down. Sometimes it's in a channel, so it'll just bounce back and forth between the two. Sometimes you can see it climbing. So there's like this little channel here and it's bouncing up and down, and each time it gets a little higher, or it might be going lower or something. So there's all these ways you can analyze a stock that you're interested in purchasing. And he's been studying this for years. So he's all excited about fundamental analysis, and then he takes the fundamental analysis, picks his best choices, and he goes to the chart and he says, okay, here's the lines of confluence and blah blah blah. And I look at all of that and I'm like, okay, that's great. But Trump tweeted this the other day and the market went like this. And it's like, okay, so how does that affect all of your positions? Like, you can do all of the fundamental analysis in the world. And it is a good thing, I'm sure. And certainly I do tend to buy companies that I believe are going to go up over time. And certainly I should do more fundamental analysis with like actual concrete evidence that is a solid company. Although you look at like Google or Meta or Microsoft or any of these big companies, it's like chances are good they're going to go up over time, because this is what the mega conglomerates do. They control all of us and they are making money off of all of us, and so they're going to go up in value over time. How long it takes for them to go up, no idea. But that's what I love about the options trading that I've been doing. When the market is going sideways and bouncing around, when it's doing this crazy stuff with tariffs and trade wars and all this stuff, there's still ways to make money. And so last week, when the market crashed, I had a feeling it was overblown. I sold puts and I said, yeah, I think I would be happy owning these stocks at these prices, because the stocks have been bouncing around up here. Right now, they're priced here. I feel like they'll recover again. And sure enough, I think by the end of tomorrow, assuming something else doesn't happen where the market crashes again, a lot of the puts that I sold are going to expire worthless. And what that means is I got paid money for making a promise that I will buy stock at a certain price that I would love to own at that price. And I think there's nothing better in the world than getting paid to do something you would do anyways. Like if somebody pays you to help them organize their crypto taxes, I love that because it's something that I love to do for some crazy reason. And it's a lot of fun. And getting paid to to promise that you're going to buy something. My problem is I often overpromise, and I got myself into trouble in the last 2 months. Like, for real, my portfolio was worth a lot more in January than it is now. And during that time, I promised to buy a bunch of companies at lower prices, and those lower prices came. And so I was called upon to actually fulfill my end of the promise. So this is the problem with puts, is it is a contract. And if you're not going to fulfill your contract, you've either got to buy yourself out of the contract, which can sometimes be rather expensive, or you've got to actually buy the the stock and wait for it to recover, etc. and so forth. If you're interested in learning more about trading options, they are doing a big promo in the group that I really support and admire. They teach how to do, especially put trading, in a way that makes logical sense, and it makes their average target is 1% a week. If you earn 1% a week on the money that you have, and if you're perfectly compounding it, at the end of the year, your money has grown 68%. And which is iffy with the market like it is at the moment, because the market fluctuation is crazy, but the payouts go in your pocket. And right now I'm using my payouts, I'm collecting payouts to pay my kids' school bill, which is due in next week. And I'm halfway there in 1 week because I promised to purchase these stocks at a lower price, and then the market goes up, and then I get to keep the money, which is great. So, anyways, I do not recommend being as risky as I am with these things, but they teach a really conservative way to get invested in um, making money as the market bounces around. And that's always been my favorite way to make money in the market. I've been a big fan of dividend stocks for a long, long time, and I wrote a book about how you can find stocks that increase their dividends every year. And if you find these certain stocks with a certain percentage that they increase it, you can make lots of money. I have a stock that is paying me, I think 30% now of my original purchase price. It pays me every year. And I believe it is now paid for itself entirely in dividends. It did take like 14 years, I think it's been. But 14 years later, it's paying enough in dividends to me every year, every 3 or 4 years, that it could buy itself again. And over that time, the value of the stock has gone up significantly. Even with the market crash right now, it's at least 10 times greater than what I paid for it. So one day, if I choose to sell it, I will have 10 times what I started with. And you just can't do that with bonds or with savings in the bank account or anything else, treasuries, anything else that people consider to be safe. I consider this to be safe, and I'm getting paid to wait. I'm getting paid dividends while I am waiting for the stock market to do its thing, and over time tends to go up. Over time, good companies tend to increase in value. And if you believe that and you'd like to learn more about how to make money, how to get paid while you're waiting to make money, let me know and I'll get you hooked up with these guys. They are running a big promo this week. I don't know if that means if it's they're just putting it out more or if it's like a lower price or anything like that, but talk to me and I can help you figure that out. In the meantime, if you're doing crypto, write it down if it's something weird, if it's something new. And other than that, if you've got any crypto questions, investing about taxes or investing in general, send them our way and we can answer them on a future. And other than that, have a great week and I'll see you later. If you have any questions or topics you'd like me to cover, drop them in the comments below. Don't forget to subscribe so you don't miss out on any future updates. And here's to a less taxing crypto journey.